When you hear the term space race, your mind probably jumps to the Cold War, right? The US versus the Soviet Union, a sprint to plant a flag on the moon. But what's happening right now, right over our heads, is something way more complex and honestly, way more valuable. This isn't just one race anymore, it's a massive push into a brand new economic frontier, and it is moving at an absolutely breathtaking speed. Okay, let's just start with a number to wrap our heads around the scale here. $613 billion. That's what the global space economy hit in 2024, according to the Space Foundation. And this isn't some slow, steady growth. We're talking a nearly 8% jump in just 1 year. Some experts think we could be looking at a trillion-dollar industry by 2032. It's just massive. And the pace is just relentless. In the first half of 2025 alone, we saw 149 launches to orbit. Think about that for a second. That works out to a rocket heading to space every 28 hours. The rate at which we are putting stuff up there is unlike anything in human history, and it's building the foundation for this whole economic explosion. But here's the most important takeaway. The thing you really need to get. All this activity, it's not one single effort. When you really dig into who's launching, what they're launching, and why, you start to see that we're actually watching two completely different space races. They're running in parallel at the exact same time, but they're playing by totally different rules. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to dive headfirst into the commercial space boom. It's fast, it's disruptive, it's really exciting. Then we'll shift gears and look at NASA's government-led approach, which is more of a marathon, all centered on its massive new rocket. After that, we'll put them side by side, a real tale of two rockets. And finally, we'll explore the incredible new industries popping up because of all this and ask that big question. Who is actually going to win the future of space? All right, let's start with race number one, the commercial boom. This race isn't about planting flags. Nope. This one is fueled by venture capital, by private money. And it's all about one thing, getting to orbit faster, cheaper, and more reliably than ever before. It's a market-driven sprint. And check this out. This chart is pretty wild. What you're seeing is that the number of things we're launching into space has been doubling roughly every 2 years. Experts are comparing this to Moore's Law, the famous idea from the computer industry that predicted processing power would double every couple of years. That's what gave us the supercomputer you carry around in your pocket. Well, we're seeing that same kind of revolutionary exponential growth happen right now, but for access to space. So who's in the driver's seat of this whole thing? Well, this chart makes it pretty clear. The commercial sector now makes up a whopping 78% of the entire global space economy. Governments are still spending, for sure, but it's private investment and private activity that's really pouring gasoline on the fire and driving this record-breaking growth. So why is all this private money flooding in? It's because investors like Raphael Retton here, they don't see space as just some niche thing for rockets. They see it as a foundational technology, kind of like the internet in the 1990s or AI just a few years ago. The big idea is that services from space, whether it's data or communications, are going to weave themselves into almost every industry on Earth, from farming to finance. So, what was the secret sauce? What unlocked this whole commercial gold rush? Honestly, it boils down to one game-changing innovation, a massive drop in launch costs. By figuring out how to reuse parts of their rockets, companies like SpaceX have absolutely cratered the price. We're talking a drop from around $10,000 to send a kilogram to orbit down to just $1,500. That cost reduction isn't just a detail, it's the engine powering this entire race. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the second race. This one couldn't be more different. It's a massive, government-funded project, and it's defined by one single awe-inspiring piece of hardware, NASA's Space Launch System, or SLS. This is basically the modern-day Saturn V, and it was built for one national purpose, to take humans back to the moon. And the SLS is just an absolute monster. It's a super heavy lift rocket, but here's the key thing. It's totally expendable. You use it once, and it's gone. A lot of its design actually comes straight from the old space shuttle program. It reuses and updates a lot of that core technology, like those iconic solid rocket boosters and the super powerful main engines. And the raw power here is just incredible. The very first version can lift 95,000 kilograms to low Earth orbit. I mean, that's just a staggering amount of weight. And the future versions are designed to lift even more. It's this sheer muscle that lets it throw the Orion spacecraft and a ton of cargo on a direct line to the moon, no pit stops or refueling needed. But, as you can imagine, that kind of incredible power comes with an equally incredible price tag. Between 2011 and 2024, NASA spent over $29 billion just developing this rocket. And that number doesn't even count the billions that were spent on the programs that came before it, where the SLS inherited a lot of its tech. And the cost per flight? It's just as eye-watering. According to NASA's own former acting administrator, the price tag for each one of the first 3 Artemis missions is estimated to be $4.1 billion per launch. That number covers the single-use rocket, the Orion capsule, all the ground systems, everything for just one mission. So this really gets us to the heart of the whole thing. You've got the commercial race, which is all about driving down costs, and you've got the government race, which is about achieving this monumental national goal almost no matter the cost. So how do these two completely opposite philosophies of spaceflight really stack up against each other? When you put them side by side like this, the difference is it's night and day. On one hand, you have the SLS, fully expendable, costs billions per launch, funded directly by Congress for national exploration. Its whole development model is based on working with the giant legacy aerospace companies. On the other hand, you have commercial rockets, partially reusable, with costs measured in dollars per kilogram, funded by private investors, and built to serve a huge market of customers who need to get their satellites in orbit. Now, because of these stark differences, the SLS program has definitely faced a ton of criticism. A lot of people argue that it's really a political project, one that Congress mandated mainly to keep all the jobs and contracts from the space shuttle era going. It's been hit with major delays, and it's gone way over budget. On top of that, government audits have called out its accounting practices, and so far, basically no one else, not commercial companies, not even other parts of the government like the Pentagon, wants to pay to use this incredibly expensive rocket. But here's where it gets really, really fascinating. Even with all this tension, even with these two wildly different approaches, the combination of them, one pushing the absolute limits of what's possible and the other making space access routine, is unlocking a wave of brand new industries in space. We're talking about stuff that was pure science fiction just a decade ago. The way people in the industry usually break it down is into 2 buckets. You've got upstream, which is all about building the actual hardware, the rockets, the satellites, the antennas on the ground. And then you've got downstream, which is all about using that hardware to create valuable services, like analyzing satellite data or providing GPS. And this value chain here, it just shows how deep this whole thing goes. It's not just about launching stuff anymore. It's a whole ecosystem. You start with building the hardware, then you launch it, you collect data, you send it back to Earth, you analyze it, and you turn it into a product. And now there's even this whole new category, building new infrastructure in space. Every single one of these boxes is a whole new frontier. And that crashing launch cost is the key that unlocks all of it. It's making ideas that were just theoretical suddenly make business sense. I mean, think about it. In the microgravity of orbit, you can bioprint human tissues for drug research in a way that's impossible on Earth because gravity would just make them collapse. You can create perfect crystals for semiconductors or flawless fiber optic cables that could make our data centers way more powerful. This isn't just a small step. It's the start of a new industrial revolution happening 250 miles above our heads. So we're left with this incredible split personality in space. You've got the commercial sprint just relentlessly driving down cost and opening up access for everyone. And then you have the government-led marathon, pushing for these singular, monumental, we choose to go to the moon type achievements. So which one of these models is going to define where we go from here? Is it the slow, steady, state-funded giant like the SLS, built to accomplish grand goals that no single company would ever attempt on its own? Or is the future defined by the fast, nimble, market-driven companies that are turning space into just another place to do business? Or maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe it's not one or the other. Maybe the real path forward is actually a combination of both. You know, a messy and expensive and sometimes clunky, but ultimately essential relay race. A system where the government runs the first leg, making those huge, risky investments to push the frontier open, and then hands the baton to the commercial sector to sprint ahead and build a real, sustainable economy on that frontier. The answer to that question is going to define the next chapter of the human story.